Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, Chapter 14, the three modes of material nature, text number 6. On page 607. Tatra Sattvam Nirmaladvam Akasakam Amayayam Sukha Sangena Bahanati Jnanas Sangena Chanagaha. Word for word. Tatra. There. Tattvam. The mode of goodness. Nirmat Saravad. Vat. Made pure to the material world. Prakashakam. Illuminating. Amayayam. Without any sinful reaction. Sukha. With happiness. Sangena. By association. Bad. Nati. Condition. Jnana. With knowledge. Sangena. By association. Sa. Also. Naga. O sinless one. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-yoga Swami Srila Prabhupada. O sinless one, the mode of goodness being purer than the others is illuminating, frees one from all sinful reaction. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Please repeat. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-yoga Swami Srila Prabhupada. Living entity conditioned by material nature are of various types. One is happy, another is very active, another is helpless. All these types of psychological manifestations are causes of the entity's conditioned status and nature. How they're differently conditioned is explained in this section of Bhagavad-Gita. The mode of goodness is first considered. The effect of developing the mode of goodness in the material world is that one becomes wiser than those otherwise conditioned. A man in the mode of goodness is not so much affected by material miseries, has a sense of advancement in material knowledge. The representative type is this Brahmana, who is supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness. This sense of happiness is due to understanding that in the mode of goodness, one is more or less free from sinful reactions. Actually, in the Vedic literature it is said the mode of goodness means greater knowledge and a greater sense of happiness. The difficulty here is that when a living entity is situated in the mode of goodness, he becomes conditioned to feel that he's advanced in knowledge and better than others. This way he becomes conditioned. The best example are the scientists and philosophers. Each is very proud of his knowledge, and because they generally improve their living conditions, they feel a sort of material happiness. This sense of advanced happiness in conditioned life makes them bound by the mode of goodness of material nature. As such, they are attracted toward working in the mode of goodness. And as long as they have an attraction for working in that way, they have to take some type of body in the modes of nature. Thus, there's no likelihood of liberation or being transferred to the spiritual world. Repeatedly, one may become a philosopher, a scientist, a poet, or repeatedly become entangled in the same disadvantages of birth and death. But due to this illusion of the material energy, one thinks that that sort of life is pleasant. Om Arganatram Dasha Jana Jana Sakaya Sakshuru Mitamjana Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tanti Swapadanti Kam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakti. Translation once again. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by the sort of happiness and knowledge. Now this section of Bhagavad-Gita is 1 through 9, conditioning of the modes. And this verse, a little difficult to understand, because there's three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. But in passion and ignorance, there's no benefit. But goodness can either be illuminating or it can be conditioned to living entity. So a living entity whose activity is inactive based on knowledge is a devotee. But one in the mode of passion is an activity, lack of knowledge. He's not a devotee, he's conditioned. So they may have both may have some quality of goodness, but devotee is illuminated, which means he, from the mode of goodness, he can come to the pure goodness. But the person who is conditioned by the mode of goodness, he has to remain in the material world. Here Prabhupada says that a man in the mode of goodness is not so much affected by material miseries. He has a sense of advancement in material knowledge. The representative type is the Brahmana, who's supposed to be situated in mode of goodness. Of course, we know, Kalo Sudra Sambhava, that there are no true Brahmanas in this age, but a Brahmana is supposed to be in the mode of goodness, and he's not supposed to accept any occupation except during an emergency. He's supposed to depend on Krishna, whatever charity he gets. And Brahmana, he's not supposed to shouldn't save anything. Any kind of prasadam that he gets, he should distribute it and just depend on Krishna. This is a Brahmana. A Brahmana is a teacher, doesn't accept it, serve anyone, and he's supposed to teach everyone. So formerly Brahmanas are conversant in the science of Ayurvedic medicine and astrology. So they could visit people could find out their astrology, they could find out their future, and they could get some treatment. But the Brahmana, he should be conversant in the Vedic literature. Because Krishna says that he eats through the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are considered the representative of Krishna. Gobramanya Hidayacha Kaitaya Krishna Govindaya Namo Namaha No Brahmanya Devaya. Krishna is pleased by the activities of a true Brahmana. So the true Brahmana is a Vaishnava Brahmana, not a Mayavadi Brahmana or a monist, impersonal Brahmana. And Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna and Balaram were in Vrindavan. The car boys, Krishna and Balaram, were in the forest. The car boy said, "We're hungry." So Krishna and Balaram said, "Well, you go to these Brahmanas who are performing sacrifice and beg some food from them and see what happens." So they went to the Brahmanas and they said to the Brahmanas, "Krishna and Balaram are hungry, please give us some food." But they were Yagya Brahmanas, only interested in rituals. They didn't understand who Krishna and Balaram were, and they ignored the boys. They didn't say yes or no, they just didn't answer them. So the boys were disappointed. They went back to Krishna, and Krishna has told him that this is the way when you go to ask for charity, sometimes you get, sometimes you don't. But if you go to the wives of the Brahmanas, then you ask them to give you something, some food. So they went to the wives of the Brahmanas, and the wives said, they said to the wives of the Brahmanas, "Krishna and Balaram are hungry." So the wives thought, "Oh, Krishna and Balaram are hungry," and they just dropped everything, whatever they were doing, they dropped everything, and they immediately collected all the food stuff they had and brought it to Krishna and Balaram. In this way, they showed the example that although the so-called Brahmanas didn't understand the position of Krishna and Balaram, they were smarta Brahmanas, only interested in ritualistic ceremonies. They didn't have any bhakti, but their wives did. And they condemned themselves after this when the wives came back and said that we have not understood the meaning of being a Brahmana. But they still couldn't go to Krishna and Balaram because they were afraid of Kamsa. So this is a Brahmana. Brahmana is a representative, supposed to represent the mode of goodness. So Prabhupada started this movement in 1966, and they also installed the deities, Radha Krishna, Gauranitai, Jagannath, Subhadra, Baladev, all over the world. And in order to worship the deity, one has to be given the sacred thread and become a Brahmana. Of course, many people have this misconception that you have to be born in a Brahmin family to be a Brahmana. But we find out throughout Vedic literature that even if one's born in the family of a dog eater, if he shows the symptoms of a Brahmana, then he's a Brahmana. If one is a Brahmana but he doesn't act like a Brahmana, then he's no better than a dog eater. And he's considered Brahma Bandhu, or a friend of a Brahmana. So of course in Kali Yuga there are no Brahmanas. Prabhupada gave Brahman initiation, gave sannyas to people who weren't really qualified. Prabhupada knew they weren't really qualified, but he gave them that opportunity to make themselves qualified, and he gave the 4 regulative principles: no meeting, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. So if one does that, one follows that, then he can be considered a Brahmana, or a first-class man. Prabhupada said he came to America to make first-class men. And they asked him, what's a first-class man? He said, someone who follows the 4 regulative principles: no meeting, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. So, this is the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness is illuminating if one is a Vaishnava and one is practicing Krishna consciousness. If one is not a Vaishnava, then one may be a scientist or philosopher and think himself in the mode of goodness. We call it armchair speculators. And we know here it says that pride, they become proud. And because they're in the mode of goodness, they feel a sense of happiness and they live a comfortable life. But this pride comes before the fall. It's called pratishta. Even in devotees, this pride may influence their life and cause them to fall from their Krishna consciousness or decrease their Krishna consciousness. Pratishta is subtle, it's called the subtle sex life, desire for profit, adoration, distinction. So in all cases, one should not let himself become overwhelmed by pride, especially if one accepts the position of a guru. If he accepts too many disciples and accumulation of wealth, he becomes proud, and this will be detrimental to his devotional service. Lord Chaitanya Satranada Pisi Nitena Churapi Sishna Manina Mandana Kirtan Yusari. So this is the position, whether one's a guru or a bhakta or whatever one may be, he should think himself lower than the straw on the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. Srila Prabhupada was in the airport somewhere waiting for a flight to go somewhere. The devotees came there, big number of devotees came there, and the other passengers who were supposed to get on the plane, they couldn't get in the waiting room. So they told, the authorities said to the devotees that all the devotees have to leave the room. So they made an announcement, all the devotees have to leave the room. So immediately, Srila Prabhupada stood up and started walking out. Of course, he was the only one that was supposed to be there, him and his servants. But because he was so humble, he thought that it was talking about him, so he started to walk out. So this is the position of pure devotee. So the mode of passion is called pradhana, which is madness. Alasha, ignorant, indolent means lazy. It's one in the mode of passion. And one in the mode of ignorance, nidra, sleeps a lot. So these two are opposed to goodness. Ignorance and passion and ignorance are opposed to goodness. Lord Kapila Dev described this in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He said that the Bajari, in the mode of ignorance, he's considered a separatist, which means he's serving the deity, but at the same time he's harboring material desires. So his desires and the desires of Krishna are not one. He's not one in desire with Krishna. So he's a separatist. So this is a dangerous position. If one becomes a bhajari or becomes a devotee and wants to, or has motivation, ulterior motivation, in Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada says that someone may put on tilak, neck beads, or dhoti kurta, and look like a Vaishnav, but actually he's thinking about how to make money, how to take advantage of the society. We've seen it so many times. People come to our society and they get in a position where they have to deal with money, and they think they can secretly get away with stealing money and they won't get caught. But eventually they do get caught. So these kind of people are called Kali Chelas. They're not actually devotees, but they're worshippers of Kali. They come for material profits instead of for making spiritual advancement. This happened many times here in this temple. One devotee was serving in the business department, and he was they give him the money to go deposit in the bank, and he would keep some for himself and change his deposit slip. So after 7 years, they caught him. He had taken many lakhs of rupees. So he was dressed like a devotee, looked like a devotee, but he was not acting like he was acting more like a Kali Chela, not a devotee. So, but from the mode of goodness, one's activities should be pure. Because in the mode of goodness, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we don't have any motives. We come for 4 reasons, to we got of distress, desires to wealth, desires of knowledge, or inquiry, or desire of knowledge. But we're just come because we desire knowledge and we're not interested in getting money or getting name and fame. Then the mode of goodness illuminates the devotee. The devotees would go on Harinam in America on the streets. Sometimes people say, "Are you American, boys and girls?" Because the devotees were so blissful, illuminating, shining, they couldn't recognize them. And some of the priests in the different religions would say, "How is it these boys and girls, they were not interested in coming to the church? How is it that now, all of a sudden, the same boys and girls are mad after God?" So this is the position of the Krishna consciousness movement. And a lot of times when Prabhupada was in New York in 1966, a lot of people were taking intoxication, not only alcohol, LSD, so many different kinds of drugs. It's difficult to give up those things when you become addicted to certain intoxication. You can't. They have societies, they spend lots of money, the government spends lots of money to try to help people get free from their addiction. But Prabhupada's formula was that he went to Thompson Square Park and chanted the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by doing that, he attracted a group of followers. And when they started chanting Maha Mantra, they gradually came to the mode of goodness and were able to give up their bad habits. So there's the reason why when someone comes to Krishna consciousness, he can easily give up his bad habits, meat eating, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex. But at the same time, one has to practice Krishna consciousness with enthusiasm, with patience and determination. These things, tat karma vivartante, these things will help one to advance in Krishna consciousness. We should not practice Krishna consciousness mechanically, or think that I have to go to Mangalarti, or I won't get prasadam, or I have to go to class, I have to do certain activities. But we should want to do these things. We should be attracted to doing these things, especially chanting japa. Everyone chant at the time of initiation. Guru Krishna Prasad by Bhakti Dr. Beach. The Guru gives the seed, and at the time of initiation, everyone promises that we will chant 16 rounds Maha Mantra. So Prabhupada, they asked Prabhupada what would please him the most at different times. So one time he gave the answer that if you chant 16 rounds all at one time. So he says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Anchalila, that chanting 16 rounds is not a very difficult task. It takes around 2 to 2.5 hours. So if you rise early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So the devotees should not stay up late so they can't get up early. It's better to take rest early, 8:30, 9 o'clock, get up at 3 o'clock, and chant a few rounds before Mangalartik, and attend the Mangalartik, and then chant the rounds from 5:30 to 7 or 7:15. And this way you can complete your 16 rounds very easily. So this is important that we chant 16 rounds, but we also have to avoid the 10 offenses in chanting the holy name. And the 10th offense is to maintain material attachments even after under so many instructions on the subject matter, and to be inattentive. So we have to work. Chanting means work. Chanting means we have to struggle to hear the sound vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, and not listen to our mind. So wherever the mind wanders, you have to keep bringing it back to hear the holy name and not listen to our mind. And you can try different things to make it easier to chant. You can try to listen to Srila Prabhupada chanting and chant along with Srila Prabhupada, the same rhythm as Srila Prabhupada. Or you can look at a picture of the deities, or do different things that will help us focus, keep us focused on the holy name. So we have to chant 16 good rounds. When King Prataparuja was in Jagannath-puri, when Lord Chaitanya was in Jagannath-puri, King Prataparuja came to Lord Chaitanya and said, "How can I serve you?" So Prabhupada wrote in the purport that this service attitude comes from chanting. So if you chant nicely, 16 rounds every day, you don't play with your cell phone, you don't talk on the cell phone, you don't get distracted when you're chanting, then you can chant 16 good rounds, then your service attitude will be favorable. If you don't chant properly, then your service attitude may not be there. Someone may ask you to do some service and you may say, "No, I don't want to do it." But if you have a good service attitude, if somebody asks you to do something, you may say, yes, sir. Yes, I will do that, whatever you ask. So whether one is dressing the deities or cleaning the temple room, it's all service to Krishna. There's no difference between the pujari and the person cleaning the temple, because they're doing it for Krishna's Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchite because we're using our senses in the service of Krishna, then it's devotional service. Otherwise, it's not. So it's very important that we keep ourselves in the mode of goodness, which keeps one, it says, it frees one from sinful reaction. At the time of initiation, then the Guru takes your karma, or takes your past sinful activities to some extent. Also, the holy name, deity worship, so many things, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, these things also are beneficial for getting free from sinful activities. But we have to not commit sinful activities again. We have to try to, in this chapter, text 14 says, anyway, it says Brahma Bhuya Kalpate, then Mam Ye Chare Mam Chayo Yabichere Na bhakti-yoga sevate saguna santatichaitam Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. That one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma Nasosati Nakanchati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labate Param. So, this is the result of being in the mode of goodness, coming to pure goodness. Then one keeps himself on the platform of pure goodness. Sometimes people would criticize devotees that when we go out for Sankirtan to sell books or do Harinam, people say, "Why don't you get a job?" They think we're parasites, we're living off the society. They were lazy, crazy fellows. The Prabhupada said he didn't want any lazy, crazy fellows in the ashram. So they think we're inactive and we're lazy, crazy, and they think that they're all right. They think we're crazy, but we know that they're crazy, and they think we're inactive, but we're active, and their activities are only keeping them bound up in the material world. And they have to work so hard day and night, 8 hours, and do so many things that they're just keeping them bound in the material world. But devotees are not inactive. We rise at 4 o'clock, we come to Mangalarti, all day we do chant japa, we go to class, all day we're doing service. We're only sleeping 6 hours. And then materialistic people, they sleep 8, 10, 12 hours, and they get pleasure from doing that. But when Prabhupada would take a nap in the afternoon, he said, "Now I'm going to waste my time." So, devotees don't like to sleep more than is required. If you sleep more than 6 hours, Prabhupada said, you're influenced by the mode of ignorance. We may need to take a little more rest, 6, 7 hours, but try to minimize it. Ajahara Parasascha. The 6 Goswamis, they conquer over eating, sleeping. They were only eating a handful dried chickpeas and fried chickpeas and dried bread, and they were sleeping for 1.5 hours a day. But they were always absorbed in the mood of the gopis, steeped in pure devotional service. So we can't imitate the 6 Goswamis, but we can follow the path that has been chalked out by the 6 Goswamis. In Nectar Devotion, Rupa Goswami gives the description of a devotee in ecstatic love or who has attained bhava to some extent. The first thing is that he has love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Second thing is he doesn't waste his time. And Prabhupada was a perfect example. He never wasted any time. Whatever he did, his daily schedule was so rigid and strict. Rupa Goswami, Lord Chaitanya, praised Rupa Goswami's devotional activities. He said it was like the lines on a stone, and he would offer obeisances 1,000 times to the deity and 2,000 times to the devotees every day, and chant 2 lakhs every day. So devotees don't like to waste their time. If there's any free time, you should pick up Prabhupada's books and read Prabhupada's books. If you don't have Prabhupada's books, then you can see it on your phone, on the website, whatever, or if you can go in the temple room and join in the 24-hour kirtan. There's always some activity here in Vrindavan especially. It's so nice to be in Vrindavan and get that opportunity to always do service. And it's easier in the Western countries where the mode of passion ignorance is prominent. It's harder to chant japa after 9 o'clock in the morning when the modes get heavier and heavier. So that's why it's best to rise early and chant your 16 rounds. When Prabhupada first went to America, he said that everyone should chant 64 rounds, because that was the standard in the Gaudiya Math. Anybody who lived in the Math was supposed to chant 64 rounds. But they told Prabhupada, we can't do that. So he said, okay, then we'll make it 32 rounds. And they said, no, we can't do that either. So he said, okay, 16 rounds, no less than that. So when Prabhupada went to America to visit one temple, they were very busy working to get the temple, renovate the temple for Prabhupada's arrival. And some of the boys were only sleeping 4 hours. So Prabhupada asked them, are you chanting your 16 rounds? They said, no, Prabhupada, we've been renovating the temple. So Prabhupada said, you must chant 16 rounds every day. If you have to, sleep less. So even though they were only sleeping 4 hours, he told them to sleep less. And someone can't finish 16 rounds. They kept asking Prabhupada, what if someone can't chant 16 rounds? If you promise, then he said, you're no better than an animal. So somehow, if we get sick, or if we have some service that's demanding, and we don't finish 16 rounds one day, then before we eat or sleep or do anything, we should make up those rounds that we missed and chant 16 rounds again. So in this way, it should be very strict that we chant 16 rounds. And we don't waste our time with the cell phone and internet and looking at nonsense things that distract our devotional service. So the devotees always reserved, detached. One of the things, Lord Chaitanya came, Vairagya Vidya Nija bhakti-yoga, came to teach what teach knowledge and detachment that fosters pure devotional service. In the Bhagavad-Gita it says there's the banyan tree, and which represents the material world. And the banyan tree, the way to, it says with great determination, one can cut down that banyan tree with the weapon of detachment, and thereby seek that place which having once gone, one never return, surrendered to the Supreme Personality Godhead, who from time has always existed and since time immemorial. So this weapon of detachment is the way to cut the bondage to the material world. So whatever ashram one's in, brahmacharya, grihastha, brahmacharya, sannyas, one has to be detached and only accept the basic necessities of life. This is Chaturmasya. So Prabhupada says in Chaturmasya, some devotees were trying to follow Chaturmasya, and Prabhupada, in certain cases, he didn't like it because they couldn't do service, couldn't preach, and in other cases he approved of it. So in Chaturmasya, one should only eat once a day, and that's Havishan, which means boiled rice and dal with no spices, only ghee, no salt. Ghee, you can use ghee, rice and dal with ghee, once a day. And you shouldn't shave your head, cut your nails. These things one can do if he follows Chaturmasya. Bhaktisiddhanta did that for 10 years. But then he was getting sick, so his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, told him he should stop it. It was detrimental to his health, detrimental to his preaching activities. So, but Prabhupada didn't demand that we do that. He said first month, no green leafy vegetables. So this month, we're not taking pollock, spinach. It's not a very difficult thing to avoid. Next month, no yogurt. Next month, there's no milk. And last month, there's no dal or any substance that's too high in protein, like soybeans and masur dal. They should be avoided in the 4th month, Kartik month of Chaturmasya. So in this way, devotees should live a detached life, and also devotees should be prideless. We already discussed that. Devotees are eager to serve Krishna, has a taste for chanting the holy name, and we see the example of our sannyasis that travel all over the world and are doing kirtan for 2 to 4 hours, sometimes so many hours a day. They have a attachment to chanting the holy name, and we should try to get that attachment and try to chant more and more, as much kirtan, as much japa as possible. So, and the devotee is also eager to hear about the activities of Krishna's activities in holy places like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri. Eager to hear pastimes of the Lord. We have Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is describing the life and pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is the same, also describing the activities of Mahaprabhu. And these are very wonderful and pleasing to hear. So we should know these stories in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, which you hear over and over again. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Aya, not different than Radha and Krishna. He heard from Gradha Pandit the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj over 100 times. So, just to show the example how important hearing is, Shravanam Kirtan Vishnu Smaranam. The hearing and chanting are the primary activities of the devotee. So we should always be engaged in hearing and chanting. Except when we're sleeping, we can't be hearing and chanting, but before we take rest, we can read Krishna book. That used to be standard in all the temples, so we should read the Krishna book. So when they take rest, they may be able to dream about Krishna. We can't control our dreams, so we may dream about anything. But still, as soon as we wake up in the morning, first thing you do is you offer obeisances to your Guru Maharaj. Then you, you take your bath, do whatever you do, and prepare yourself for Mangal Artik and immediately you should start chanting chanting japa, not do anything else. And this way, we should continue throughout the day. And Chaturmasha, Prabhupada says, Chaturmasha is meant that we should give up all foods that are meant for sense enjoyment. Not only spinach, but anything that's not a necessity we should try to avoid. Like, pizza, pasta, these foods, these are junk foods that are not actually required that we eat these kind of things. We should keep our diet simple, keep our lives simple. In this way, we can become detached from the material world. So, we should not be distracted by the mode of goodness, and we should not. We should know that scientists and philosophers who are very proud, very difficult to preach to these kind of people, because they maya apriti gyan, their knowledge is stolen by illusion. But Sukdambar Maharaj was very expert at preaching to these kind of people, to convince them that they were giving the wrong information. And the scientists say life comes from matter, and that so many things they say that if something can't be perceived by experiment, then it doesn't exist. But you can't see the mind, you can't see the intelligence. You can't. What experiment can you do? But no one will disagree. Will say that we don't have a mind and we don't have intelligence. It's there, but we can't perceive it by experiment. So there's so many things we can't perceive with our limited senses. So most people were believing in the scientists, thinking that they're taking them as great authorities. One child came to the temple a few days ago. He was a baby, maybe 1 year old, wearing a T-shirt that said, "Future Scientist." So, this is not what we want our children to be. Future scientists, be in the illusion, be in the mode of goodness, be in the mode of goodness as a devotee. So I thought that was pretty funny that the child, 1 year old baby, was wearing a T-shirt, said "Future Scientist." So they think that's being a scientist is something admirable, something wonderful. But we know they're not. Then Prabhupada challenged the scientists and defeated the scientists many times in so many room conversations, morning walks. He was able to defeat the scientists, philosophers. No one was able to ever defeat Srila Prabhupada in every conversation, anywhere in the world, because he had the Vedic knowledge. Vedic means end of knowledge. He had the knowledge given by Sukadeva Goswami, by Vyasadeva, which is perfect knowledge, not just scientists. They have some more fond of knowledge, but they're always changing their ideas. They make one theory, and then a few years later they find out that's wrong, and then they have another theory. They write textbooks in the schools, science textbooks, but they're always changing the textbooks year after year, finding out that what they're saying is not actually true. It's like Darwin's theory. The Darwin theory of evolution, it was accepted as a fact, but Darwin didn't know anything about the spirit soul, so he could not give a proper description of evolution. And they say that the world, modern civilization began 3,000 years ago, but we know that the Bhagavad-Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago, and we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, there's always been a civilization, starting from Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. It's much more advanced civilization than we have today. So therefore, the boys are not fooled by these scientists who who are promising people in the future they're going to be happy, in the future their life's going to be very easy. But all these things, they've created so many things in the world, and they did so much destruction in the world in the name of science, that life is not becoming easy. There's a shortage of water. Soon there'll be a shortage of oil. Soon there'll be everything will be becoming shortage of everything. Be a shortage of food, the air, the water, the everything, even our clothes, everything we have has become polluted. Even the Yamuna, now only 3% comes to Vrindavan this time of year, and it's black. It's only it's not even Yamuna water. So this is their scientific advancement, that they're not even allowing the Yamuna to come to the holy Dham. Anyway, our time is up. So this verse is talking about the mode of goodness. So the mode of goodness conditions the conditioned souls, keeps one bound up in the material world because it makes one proud and makes one think he's better than others, false prestige, ankara. But the mode of goodness is also illuminating for the devotee because he's melting away. It says when the devotee practices Krishna consciousness, he's melting away the mode of passion and ignorance until eventually he's on the platform of pure devotional service. Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Mana Soshati Nakanchati Samasareshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. This is the position of pure goodness, where no more laments nor hankers to have anything, but is always joyful. So we should try to come to that position and not allow ourselves to be influenced by the modes of passion and ignorance, which only keep us bound up in the material world. We should always try to be in the mode of goodness and follow Prabhupada's instructions. It's very important that we take the dust from the lotus feet of pure devotee. King Rahugana told Jabarat that you must take the dust from the lotus feet of a pure devotee. That means following his instructions. So we should follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions by reading his books and understanding his instructions, so that we can get the mercy of a pure devotee. Without the mercy, Yasha Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada, Yasha Prasada, Narakintu Gopi. Without the mercy of pure devotee, without pleasing Krishna, devotee, you can't please Krishna. If Krishna is not pleased, then the devotee is not pleased. So you have to please Krishna by first pleasing his devotee, and it pleases the devotee by following his instructions. So anybody have any comments or questions? We have a microphone. If not, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.